Felicia Stanley is also my mentor, who has been helping me ever since we met back in 2018. And I'm thankful for everything she's helping me build my skills in digital media and everything. And I hope that I have more years to learn more skills and do better. Introducing today Ms. Felicia Sinegar.
Thank you, Amanda. Good morning. Can you hear me back?
Yes.
All right. As Amanda said, this is the 3rd annual Creative Connections Conference. I got this idea of doing this conference as I was writing my first book. I thought I was in a position where I didn't know anything about writing a book. I didn't know where to turn. I had nobody in my family that had written a book. I didn't have any friends that had written a book. So what did I do? I saw this advertisement for a book weekend over at the Hilton Anatole here in Dallas. And I thought, okay, I'm gonna sign up. I'm gonna go maybe the first day and I'll get the gist of it and see what it's all about. Well, I ended up staying there 3 days and almost got pulled into a situation that I wasn't ready for. And when I say I wasn't ready for, I mean the financial commitment, the hundreds of dollars that was required up front and each month. So long story short, I pulled out of that situation and I met a young lady that I worked with at the college. She invited me to a author book launch. And so I said, sure, we had never hung out before, I'll go. So I pull up to the place where the event was at, and I'm like, wait a minute, she know I don't drink, so why are we at Goody Goody? Maybe she got the address wrong. So I got out the car and went in, I asked the guy at the front, I said, is there someone here that's having a book launch in the liquor store? And he said, well, we have a room all the way in the back. And I said, okay, I don't know my girlfriend's car, but I'll go back there and see. And if she's not back there, I'm leaving. To make a long story short, this young lady helped me get started writing my book. And just to show you how things work, I had not long met her father and helped him get into college. And I sat down and I started talking to the people that was there, and I turned around and he was sitting behind me. I'm like, how do you know her? And he's like, that's my daughter. I'm like, okay, long story. She's from California, he's from California. I had only known him a short period of time, didn't even know he had a daughter. But anyway, needless to say, I bought her book to help me get started, and the rest is history. I think that my purpose for this event, it's with great heart. I needed connection, and I know there's a lot of people out there who want to be authors. They have books in their head, some on paper, but don't know how to get all the pieces put together. So that's my intent with this event, is to always connect people like you authors, best-selling authors, with aspiring authors and people who want to actually publish books the self-published way. I always tell people I have nothing against traditional book publishing. It's great if that's for you, but it's not for everyone. I found my niche in self-publishing. And as far as I know, I have no plans of changing. So I will continue to be a self-published author. I will continue to put it out there that this is a place where people who want to get want to hear from people who have proven success, like you authors and publishers can come together and get the information that they need to get started. I think that's pretty much all I wanted to say. I apologize for not having things set up, but I can only do what the facility allows me to do. And thank you all for actually helping me get the room set up. And also for Amanda and everybody that has contributed today. Thank you all for being authors, because without you and vendors, I wouldn't be here today. We are getting a late start, but trust me, we're going to have everything videoed, and you'll be able to get a copy of the video and share it as you like. Thank you. I will now turn it back over to... Oh, no, I wanted to update you on the show run agenda, because I put one out and then I had to make some changes last night. Janine Stokes will continue to be first, and then the second person, Jamisha will be joining us by video, and also Dr. Assefa at 10:30 will be joining us by video. 11 o'clock we'll have a panel discussion with Mia Turner-Whitley, LaShonda Miles, and Janine Stokes. At that time, there will be door prizes. 11:30, Tabitha Pinion will have her presentation. 12 o'clock, lunch for those of you who requested lunch. And this is the time to visit vendors and purchase books and get information. 12:30, Amanda will be giving out door prizes. Then Marilyn Bradford will bless us with poetry and spoken word. 1 o'clock, there will be a live Q&A session where everyone can ask questions of authors and presenters. And 1:30, Ms. Tabitha Pinion will have a workshop that she will be doing. Okay, and that's it for the run of the show. Okay, bringing to the stage Janine Stokes.
All right.
Good morning. Good morning. I am Janine Stokes, and I am a Christian author, self-published Christian author, also an author educator. I'm a certified nonfiction book coach. I write and self-publish books for the faith-based market, and I seek to help others who desire to do the same. And so what I am going to talk today about is basically what I know, and that is how to write for the faith-based marketplace, for the Christian marketplace. So let's get started. I'm going to be using those since we're not able to do the PowerPoint that I brought together. But I'm going to talk about, if there's anyone out here who desires to write for the faith-based marketplace, how do I go about it, Janine? I've been writing since 2002 professionally, writing books for the faith-based marketplace. I've written 5 books and self-published 5 books. And I've attended numerous conferences to learn the craft, so I know a little bit about, I believe, this marketplace that I'm seeking to write for. And if you desire to do the same, I want you first of all to know what is the Christian market. It's important that you know that. And I want you to understand that the Christian market is a $1.2 billion market. Around 10% of the broader U.S. publishing market. Christians buy more books and spend more money on books than the average reader. This explains why the big businesses, the big publishers, have bought up the independent presses. You'll notice that we no longer have Lifeway Christian Bookstore, Family Christian Bookstore. We used to have those bookstores. You used to be able to go in and buy all your Christian products and your Christian books through these bookstores. Well, they're not around anymore. they've been bought up by the bigger publishers because they understand that this market is huge and that people are buying books. So HarperCollins and some of these bigger publishers have bought up the Lifeways and the Family Christian Bookstore. Fortunately, Mardell's is still alive and well, and the hope is that it will continue to be alive and well. But you have seen over the years that a lot of the Christian bookstores are no longer here, unfortunately. But HarperCollins and some of the, the bigger Christian publishers are now kind of taking that place. So it is a booming market. And so if you want to write for this market, I want to talk about how you best go about doing that. I'm going to share some tips this morning that I just want you to be aware of for how to write for the Christian marketplace. And the first tip that I want to share with you this morning is tip number 1, and that is that you have to prepare to write for the Christian market by taking your writing seriously. You cannot haphazardly say, I'm going to just write a book. You've got to prepare to write a book. Writing as a hobby is something that you do when you feel like it, but writing professionally or as a career is something you do even when you don't feel like it. And so if you're really wanting to be a writer and you want to get published and you want somebody to, a publisher to look at your book, you got to first of all be willing to take the craft seriously. Okay, and not haphazardly say, I want to write a book. There's a story that I heard recently that says that a surgeon came up to an author and told her, when I retire one day, I want to be a writer. And she looked him dead in the eye and said, when I retire one day, I want to be a surgeon. He didn't take her seriously. She didn't take him seriously. It's a craft. Writing is a craft. Writing is a career. You have to take that craft seriously. You have to be committed to it. You have to ask yourself, what am I willing to give up for it? What time am I willing to give up? Am I willing to give up a little sleep to stay up later or get up earlier to write? I'm not telling you to give up your full-time job, but what else are you willing to give up if you're not willing to give up a full-time job to be a writer? A little time, a little sleep, a little less social media, a little less TV. Those are things that you have to think about when it comes to pursuing your writing career if you want to publish a book. God expects excellence from us as Christian writers, and so He gives us His excellence, and He wants us to give us His. He wants, let me say that again. He wants us to give Him our excellence when it comes to writing books, okay? There's a lot of bad writing out there because the self-publishing world has opened up a lot of doors for writers to be able to write and to publish and to be able to sell those books. But if you want to give God your best, then you have to make sure you're willing to take the craft seriously. So that's the first tip that I want to share for you on how to prepare to write for the market. Be willing to ask yourself what you're willing to do seriously. Remember that writing as a career is something that you choose to do even when you don't feel like it. You're willing to get up earlier. You're willing to stay up late at night to write. Tip number 2. How do you prepare to write for the market? You prepare by preparing your craft. Okay? You need to be willing to train your craft. If you're just beginning the journey of writing, and most of us are, and you don't have experience as a writer, then you have to be willing to take time to learn the craft. Okay? That means attending conferences, like the one today. Okay? Writing conferences that are all over the Metroplex. That means joining a critique group and being willing to get feedback about your writing, and being willing to develop tough skin regarding your writing and not being so afraid. I'm not going to that meeting this week because, I think they're going to be too critical. You have to be willing to acquire that tough skin. You have to be willing to take the necessary courses. What online courses that can you take to learn your craft? Or you might be enrolled in a community college craft course, which I enrolled in when I first started writing. I took a class on how to write poetry. Okay. Or formal education. Some of you might decide you want to go and get your master's in fine arts because again, you want to really, really learn how to be an excellent writer, so you might train by going to school full time. Or books. There are a number of books out here that will teach you how to write effectively. What I found when I began my journey as a Christian writer is I didn't have a lot of money to spend on a lot of training, but I had access to a lot of free resources. And so I took advantage of free books. I went to Half Price Bookstore and I bought a lot of books that were affordable on the craft and just read a lot about the craft. There were a lot of free online courses, as there are now, that you can sign up for. I joined a critique group in my neighborhood, a writers group, no charge there. And then I started attending a conference every year that was held right here in the Metroplex that provided just tons of information on how to learn how to be a writer. So I took my time and learned the craft before I published my first book. And that's what you need to do also, or you'll need to do if you really want to write effectively for not only the Christian marketplace, but just the marketplace altogether, whether the Christian or secular marketplace is your goal. Prepare your craft by considering these things. Tip number 3, remember writing is 95% perspiration and 5% inspiration. So you need to be willing to practice your craft. You need to be willing to practice your craft. And that means deciding a couple of things. What you're going to write, where you're going to write, and when you're going to write. Okay? Because if you're practicing your craft, that means practicing your craft consistently. Not haphazardly where you catch as catch can. You've got to find the exact time that works for you, whether that's morning time, or evening time, or late at night. You've got to determine the best time for you. You don't have to go to determine the best time that works for you. Are you a morning lark? Are you up with the birds? That may be your best time. Or are you an owl where you like to stay up late at night? Okay. You need to know the best time for you as a writer and be willing to commit to that if you're going to be effective at it. So you've got to know, before you practice your craft, you've got to define, when am I going to write? And then you've got to define where you're going to write. Okay? One of the greatest aids to a consistent, disciplined program of productive writing is a regular place reserved just for your special writing activity. Dr. Herb said that. So where are you going to write? Where is the best place for you? I write in my office at home. Where is it best for you? Is it at maybe Starbucks? Is it at the library? Is it in your kitchen, at your kitchen desk? Is it in your office after work when everybody's gone? When you have that 1 hour of time where it's just quiet? You have to define where your best time is for you to write consistently and then stick to that if you're going to practice your craft, okay? So when is your best time for you to practice your craft, and where is your best time for you to practice your craft? Are two very important things that you need to do to write. And then you've got to prepare your family. You've got to put I have French doors on my office, so when I'm writing, I close the doors to let them know, do not disturb Mom. This is my writing time, okay? You've got to do that same thing, too, in whatever way you want to, because people will not take your writing seriously if you don't take your writing seriously, or your craft, okay? So you've got to prepare your family by letting them know, well, from 6 to 7, or from 11 to 12, I will be writing. And unless there's an earthquake or a hurricane, or, there's a family emergency, please do not disturb me, okay? You have to prepare your family. You have to learn how to take you seriously. Nobody else will take you seriously if you don't take yourself seriously. So prepare your craft by practicing it, by knowing where and when you're going to write, and prepare your family so that they will take your time seriously. It took a while for my family to appreciate, that I was writing, that I was serious about my writing. as I was consistent and getting up every morning, they saw me getting up every morning, they saw me going into the office, they saw me closing that door. They started seeing that I meant what I said. Okay? And that's what you have to make sure your family does too. Tip number 7, if you're going to prepare to write for the Christian market or the secular market, choose your format. Know your format. You know, what type of writing do you feel you do best? Are you a poet? Are you a devotional writer, as I am? Are you a short story writer? Do you like to write articles? Are you a novelist? Or do you like to write books? Are you a nonfiction writer? So as you begin practicing your craft, if you don't already know that, it'll become clear to you the more you write. You'll start seeing your structure and what you're comfortable with, okay? But you want to make sure you define that format as you continue to practice your craft. Are you a screenwriter? Okay? So those are things you want to know as you're choosing, as you're preparing for the market. And I know I'm probably out of time. Next one. Thank you for putting that up. Tip number 8, you want to prepare to write for the Christian market by determining who God wants you to reach with your writing. Who is it that you want to write for? Okay. Is it for children? Is it for women? Is it for men? A special audience? Is it for singles, married, etc., high school, college? You need to know who you're writing for. You're not writing for everybody. Okay? And so as you, again, prepare to practice and prepare to publish for the market, you need to know who your target reader is. Because that's who you're writing for. It's very important that you define that. If you haven't already done so, that you take time to think about that. And I talked about number 8. You go ahead. If you respect yourself again as a writer, everyone else will too. Let's see what I have next on that. Now, this is very important. Prepare to write for the market by starting small. Okay, a lot of us want to start with a book, but again, a book is a monumental goal. And most of us, if we start with a book, we find that we end up getting frustrated and we want to stop. I'm sorry, that's okay. And we want to stop. And so, as a beginning writer, I challenge you and encourage you to start with a small goal. Start with a blog. Start writing for your church. And I'm talking here more so if you're writing with a faith-based perspective. But, start writing for the community. Start writing for a magazine. Start on social media. Okay, start with, again, a blog or quotes on social media. We see that all over social media now. People are just doing different things when it comes to putting their inspiration out there. And it's their way of testing the waters. Well, people like it. Okay. But the important thing is to start small so that you don't get overwhelmed as you begin your writing journey. And these are some ways to go about doing so. I started at my church. I started submitting poems to a newsletter that we had at the time. And that again builds my confidence. It builds your confidence because people give you feedback and say they like it. Do it, keep submitting. Or an article, you might have gotten something from an article, a particular magazine that accepted your article. That's confirmation that your writing is good. So these are just little steps to help you start small and build up your confidence and build up your credentials. And then, when you're ready, you can write your book. Okay? This is the market guide that I use for the faith-based market. It's called the Christian Writers Market. Your comprehensive resource for getting published. There's also one for the general market, the writer's market, I believe is the writer's market guide. And so there's a resource that you can use to help you find markets for your book, particularly for those of you who want to traditionally published, this is a resource that you want to go to. Now, if you're going to self-publish, as Felicia was talking about earlier, then you're not going to use this resource. You're going to pretty much use a platform like Kindle Direct Publishing or Ingram Spark to self-publish your books. But if you want to traditional publish and you really feel that's the way you're being directed, this is a great resource. So these are 10 tips that I'm sharing today to help you prepare to write for the Christian or the secular market. And I hope that these tips will help you begin your journey to become the author that you desire to be. Thank you for your time.
How long did you say you've been doing this?
I started professionally in 2002. 2002, yeah. And my story is, I felt the call to step away from a career in higher ed and prepare for a full-time career as a writer. And crazy. But I felt the call to step out, and so I started professionally. I've been writing since high school, and then started writing professionally in 2002.
I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
What has been the most challenging and rewarding aspect of being a writer?
Ooh, that's a loaded question. What has been the most challenging? Can I start there?
Yes.
The most challenging of being a writer, I think, is when you don't feel like you're successful at it. And yet you know that you need to keep writing because you're called to do it. So, I think for me, what's been the most challenging is not seeing the return on the investment that I've wanted. Yeah, that I expected when I stepped out. Okay, and thinking, 22 years down the road that I would be more successful at it than I am. But God had to remind me that that's not how He defines success.
Right.
And so His definition of success is that you did it. You did exactly what I told you to do. For that reason, you're successful.
Yes.
And so I had to accept that. Yeah. And then the second part of the question,
The most rewarding.
the most rewarding part of being a writer for me is that writing is cathartic. Is that am I saying that right? Cathartic. It helps me get out whatever I'm dealing with personally. It helps me express my struggles, my successes. And I'm like Paul. The Apostle Paul said that if he didn't preach the gospel, he would be most miserable. And I believe that I would be very miserable if I didn't write, because I believe I'm called to this profession. And so that's what's been most rewarding to me is just to be able to have the time to write and to get out what God has put in. Anyone else?
So when you have your moments where you don't feel like writing, you're not inspired, how do you overcome those moments?
Did everybody hear her question? Say that a little loud, just in case.
So when you have those moments where you don't feel inspired and that you don't feel like writing, what do you do and how do you overcome those moments?
That's a good question. Very good question. She said, when I have those moments when I don't feel like writing, how do I overcome those moments? I spend time, as a Christian, letting God know how I'm feeling. First thing is, I don't want to write today. I'm honest with Him about my feelings and my struggles. You're going to have them. And so I just let God know, I don't want to write today. I don't want to be obedient to this call. I don't care what you say. I'm not going to be obedient. And, I have to let Him speak to me and remind me that you're not doing this because of you. You're doing this because of me. So if you're a Christian, I would first of all, just tell the Lord how you feel. Be honest. And if you don't really, the thing that He's taught me through the years, because I've been consistent with writing, that it's okay if you don't want to write today. It's okay. Take a break. Okay? Sometimes you just need to take a break and back away from it And I'm struggling with that right now. I'm a little burned out. And so, God's like, just take a break. It's okay, Janine. You don't have to get up at 6 a.m. every morning. I'm not forcing you to get up at 6 a.m. every morning, even though I know I do need to be consistent. But take a break. Take a break, and then you'll come back to it refreshed and renewed and ready to do what you need to do. Okay? Does that answer your question? Sir?
Yes. I would like to add on to what you just said, and ask you a question.
Sir?
I think when you get in those moments where you are struggling with writing or coming up with a thought or continuing the idea, you set up a pattern that I write every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I write for 2 hours. And you do that irregardless. Because at the end of that story, you will have stuff you need to edit out, things you need to change. So you will have written down those ideas as you've gone along. Now it's time for you to develop or conclude the story. And that may be able to help you do that because those thoughts came to you for whatever reason. So that would be my response if you don't mind.
No, not at all.
And even up to you, what you were saying, as a Christian author or writer, how do you market your book differently than a secular author would write their book or market their book or sell it? What is the difference or is it the same?
I think it's really the same. The technique, and Eric, you can chime in on this if you like. You have to define your marketing plan. Your audience may be different in terms of who you're trying to reach, but in terms of those techniques for marketing, I think they're pretty much the same. That you have to make sure that you've created that plan, you know who you're reaching, and you know the resources that you want to use to market that book. Now, for a Christian author, the resources may be different in terms of, they might be targeting the church, or, but the marketing plan is not, in my opinion, different. You still have to market that book. You can't expect God to just rain down, sales. It's different in the sense that you can ask God for His help every day when you get up in the morning. Like I do, Lord, order my steps and show me how to market this book effectively, and which market to reach today. So it's different in that sense, but in terms of the strategies that I have to use, I'm still having to, do some of the same thing I think I would do if I was marketing it to the secular market. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Eric, any comments on that?
No, I think it's fundamental, as you mentioned. Once you identify who the target market is, then you want to formulate a strategy on how to go after whoever it is, the secular or in the church. But then you have to have a strategy on how you're going to execute on that. And to your point of, I need to do this regardless, like you got to have that same discipline. Once the book is done, boom, book's done, now what? And then going back to it, you got to have a plan. And the hard part, after you're done writing the book, if you're going to self-publish it, is how do I get this book to the market, to the masses, wherever your target audience is. And that's what the strategy right now.
His background is marketing, so I wanted him to chime in.
All right.
Am I exhausting your time? Any other questions, comments? All right. Thank you again for your time, and I hope this session has been informative. And I encourage you to write and to hopefully start by using the tips that I've shared. Start small so you don't get overwhelmed, and look forward to seeing your first book. Take care.
Can you all hear me? Okay, I'm just going to tell them just a brief something about you. Dr. Assefa has a PhD in economics, worked at planning office in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia in 1977 to 1988. He's a senior economist. He participated as a member of the International Labor Organization group of experts for the projection and implementation of wage system reform and employment projection strategy and program, which was submitted by the ILO to the Ethiopian government. He also served as a delegation head of Ethiopia seminar participants from April 22nd through April 30th of 1987 on facts of success in public enterprise management in Eastern and Southern African regions. Dr. Assefa Mulane.
Having me here. Thanks everybody here. This morning I'll be presenting a brief a discussion point on the essentials of effective writing. The essentials of effective writing. I have focused on non-fiction. Non-fiction. What is non-fiction? Non-fiction deals with the issues that represent real-world situations. These real-world situations are based on data and information. And therefore, we have to put together the information in such a way that the argument of the discussion is represented by facts. Doing so, what are our target audience? Are we tailoring the information to the executives, to decision makers, or are we addressing poverty? Depending on the topic. Non-fiction usually addresses real-world situation based on data. When we speak of data, then we have to delve into data analysis. Once we gather and compile data, how are we going to analyze data? That is an entirely different field, which is covered through the statistics reflecting data analysis. How are you going to analyze data? Are you going to summarize data? Are you going to see outliers? So all this will help us to shape the topic at hand. When we speak of data, we have primary data, first-hand information, secondary data, and tertiary data. So, to write a book or to present an issue, we'll have to sift through a host of information. What is the topic of interest? Why have we selected this topic? What is the purpose? So we have to ask a series of questions, and then once we settle with the topic, we focus on the topic from beginning to end. So we have to identify the topic of interest affecting societies. It could be poverty, it could be women empowerment, it could be migration, it could be environmental issues. And then what is the target audience? As I mentioned, are we targeting major organizations, government agencies, non-government organizations, sociologists, educational institutions, or individuals interested in social issues. So we have to focus on the topic from beginning to end, and we have to have relevant and reliable information. And we have to compare our references, and then we see that the work is seamless from beginning to end. So how are we going to represent this work? Is it going to be only in written terms, or is it going to be represented by charts and data? How are you going to display our information? So charts and data communicate to the reader in such a way that the reader can see the trend. Is the problem getting worse? Has the situation been resolved? So in a nutshell, I'm giving a framework of how to approach any discussion regarding non-fiction work. Non-fiction genre is non-fiction, based on real-world information. So with this general remark, I would like to conclude that effective research or writing provides the venues for better findings and tackling issues affecting societies. Any questions?
Does anyone have any questions for Dr. Assefa?
What's the question?
Dr. Assefa,
Yes, I'm hearing.
she wants the names of your books.
I have recently written a book on inequality and poverty in Ethiopia, challenges and opportunities. The book was received by International organization because it tackles poverty. It has 131 or 132 references, and also surveys, first-hand surveys, and personal experience put together to complete the book. It's already available at the Library of Congress.
Awesome. Okay, Dr. Assefa, are you available to put your information
In the chat?
in the chat, and then I will be able to share the names of your books or the link to give them so that they can just go and find your book?
Okay, let me go back here. Let me go to the chat tab here. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Please let him put his books in the chat first. Okay, the next thing while Dr. Assefa is putting his information on his books in the chat, we're going to go ahead and set up for the 11 o'clock panel discussion. We've got about 5 minutes before we start. We have author Mia Turner Whitley and author LaShonda Miles and author Janine Stokes. These will be our 3 panelists for today.
Am I done?
Did you put your information in the chat?
Yes,
Okay,
I
yes.
did.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Assefa, for showing that.
I thank you so much. Sorry, I'm wrapping up to go to Houston right here. So
Okay, well, thank you. Have a safe trip.
You too, very kind of you. Thanks everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Very, very interesting and very creative. Okay, so the first question goes to the person who said that they are the visionary author, and that's Mia. Okay, author Mia Whitney. What inspired you to become a writer, and how did you develop your visionary approach to storytelling? I'll repeat that question one more time for you. What inspired you to become a writer, and how did you develop your visionary approach to storytelling?
Okay, so one with the how did I become an author? Thank you so much for the invite, and I really appreciate it and our connection. For me, with starting and writing, actually I didn't like writing. I love reading, but writing was a totally different story. Till I guess it's like my sophomore year, and it's almost a little bit embarrassing, but I'm going to say it. So in the university that I attended, we had to, part of completing our English class that we were taking is that our final exam, we had a paper that we had to pass. So no matter how good you did on all the other essays and whatnot, there was this one final paper where yours truly had to take the class 3 times before I finally got it right. So along that journey, I really started to like writing. So that's kind of where my journey started with writing. I've always thought about maybe one day possibly writing a book, which led to where I'm at now as a visionary author. So I connected with this young lady on Facebook, and we were talking. She made a post about looking for authors, co-authors to be a part of her book called No Glory Without a Story. And I was like, well, I have a story that I could tell. And that's where it all began. I was a co-author in that book, and then several years fast forward, I decided that, you know what, I want to be able to give people a platform where they can share their story about their life experiences. So the 3 books that I have as a visionary author are Amazon bestsellers, and with each one, the unique and beautiful thing about it is 1, they're short stories, and then 2, having others having the opportunity to share their life experiences. So I'm really proud of that as I'm sitting next to one of the authors that's been actually in 2 of my books. So.
Okay, thank you. Now I will move to the author who writes anthologies. You ready for your question?
Yes.
Okay. What inspired you to write your first anthology?
My first one, that was, of course, with Mia, Life According to the Being a Single Parent, that I was inspired by. I am a single mother of 4 boys, and my 4th son, which was born later in life, I wanted to write more so about him. He's a child with diagnosed special needs. He's diagnosed with autism, ADD, ADHD. So I wanted to kind of inspire other mothers to let them know, hey, you know, your child's diagnosed with this, you can overcome it, you can get past it. Because there was a problem that I had. I shut down when he was first diagnosed. I was depressed, I was hurt, and one day I had lunch with one of my friends, and she had also children, you know, that were diagnosed with that as well. And she said, LaShonda, she said, I didn't worry about the diagnosis, I just want to get my child some help. And that's when everything clicked in. So basically my whole chapter in that book is about him, about how he was diagnosed, about how I went about getting him help and the treatment that he needed. And I just want also, in conjunction with her as well, I also wanted to make sure that whatever I wrote, I also give glory and honor to God when I do it.
Amen.
So he was, any scripture, I put scriptures in there to inspire. I put word in there to inspire because he's the one that's gonna help me through what I'm going through.
Awesome. Okay, that's very awesome. All right. We're gonna keep going back and forth. The next author, of course, we already know she's a Christian author and she writes in a Christian way. Your question is, how has your faith influenced your writing?
How has my faith influenced my writing? Well, it's infused in my writing. Everything that I write is because of my faith. I write from my personal experiences, just the ups and downs of life that have happened, and I use faith as the common thread that's kept me through it all. And so when I write, like the last book that I just published is called Living by Faith through the midlife years. So I talk about how, not so much all the different things that we deal with as women during those midlife years, but how faith helps us survive those things. And so I would say that my faith is the reason why I write. You know, I think it drives me to write.
Awesome. Okay, hold on. This is really good. Okay, we're going back to the visionary author again. This question is, can you describe your creative process when developing new ideas and themes for your work? Can you describe your creative process when developing new ideas and themes for your work or your book?
Okay, very good question. And for me, the first thing is prayer, my relationship with God. I know that He gives us all the ideas, the things that are in our heart. I know that He has a great influence in that. So for me, it's that prayer and my relationship with God and the things that He put in my heart. So with my first anthology, when I was a child, exposing and overcoming childhood trauma, there was an individual that was very close to me that experienced some things. And me being me, the type of person that I am, I love helping people. And I love being able to be a positive light, yet a real light. Because the fact of the matter is those things happen to individuals. So then through my prayer and just thinking, and as a visionary, when He gives you the vision, you know, you write it down, you make it plain, right? So then that was another part of it, kind of write down what it was that I wanted to do. And then also the other thing that helped, along with prayer, writing it out, was seeking assistance. So there's a publisher that I connected with some years ago at a conference in San Diego, and I called her up and I told her what my plan was and what I was trying to do and what I had thought about. And she really gave me some great information that helped me to pull it all together. So in my anthologies, when I do those, I love to have fun. I like it to be exciting. I have a lot of energy, so it shows, and it comes with people that are working with me because I understand how important it is for individuals, especially including myself, to be able to use our voices in a platform that helps others, because guess what? We are not alone. So that's part of my creative process.
And that is creative, it is. And I love that you talk about that. That brings to mind Jeremiah 29:11. I know the plans I have to prosper you, not to harm you, to give you a hope and a future. That's the main thing that came to my mind as you were saying that. And that's His creative plan, what He instilled in you. Okay. Let's get back to the anthology author here. I'm going to skip to the third question because you answered some of the second question. Are there any particular experiences or influences that led you to focus on this collection of what you put in the anthology?
Yeah, the first one, like I said, my son. The second one I did with Mia, cheers to the ones who raised us. I pay tribute to my mother and my father while they were yet still alive.
Yes.
And also, I did also wanted to do, I always wanted to write about my grandmother. She was a missionary in Kojic Church, and she did a lot. And I wanted to pay tribute to her and my grandfather. So those were my main reasons for doing the books. When it was just right on time for Cheers to the Ones Who Raised Us, because it would just put in my spirit. I said, I gotta write something about my grandmother. And then when she put it out, I was like, here we go. So I just wanted to get that done because I always wanted to write something about my grandmother and my parents. And I wanted to let them know, hey, I appreciate you. You guys did a lot. My mother did a lot before she met my father. You know, she took care of 3 kids. It seemed like the times we didn't even appreciate it.
Right.
And it wasn't until I became a mother that I knew, okay, you know, you need to appreciate what your mom did. Your mom did a lot. She was, there was times she didn't even eat.
Yeah.
She brought us food home, but she didn't even eat. And she would go in her room and crying, and you know, because she was doing her thing. But I just wanted to pay tribute to them. You know, my mother and my father, while they were yet still alive, to let them know, hey, I love you, I care about you. You know, whatever they want, they gonna get it. And that's just bottom line. Whatever they want, they gonna get it. And they've always taught me, you know, respect your elders, respect, you know, just respect the people that have been in your life. Because I don't think young people today, they understand that you can glean and learn from the older generation.
Yes.
You really can. And like I said, when I go to church, I miss some of the mothers of the church. Because I said, I wish we had the mothers of the church like they did before. You know, I wish we did. But yeah, that's what I want to do, is pay tribute to all of them and let them know, hey, I love you, I care about you, and you're doing a good job.
And I think anthology is a great way to put that out there. Those short pieces to the whole puzzle. Absolutely. Good. Okay, your next question is, how do you ensure, and you may have answered part of this already, how do you ensure your work aligns with biblical teachings? What do you do to make sure that your work that you write and put out there aligns with biblical teaching?
As a Christian writer, the very first thing that I do is I study the Word. And I write devotions, I write inspirational poetry, I write art, social topics, on social hot topics. And so as a writer, I'm not writing from my perspective, I'm having to write from his as a Christian writer. And so the way I do that is by first spending time reading the Word, making sure I understand the Word, and that I understand the context of the passage that I've read, and then taking that information and asking the Lord, how do you want me to translate that into a devotion or a poem? And so, like, for example, for a poem, I might take a scripture and be inspired by that scripture and then start writing about that scripture. For a devotion, you know, I'm going to take a passage that God has spoken to me directly from His Word, and then I start writing about, you know, sharing in that devotion format, you know, an anecdote, and then taking that scripture and applying it, and then, interpreting it, and then applying it to the need, so that somebody can be blessed or inspired by it. So it all starts for me by spending time, by getting up every morning and spending time in prayer, and spending time reading the Word, and hearing what the Lord wants to say through it.
That's an awesome way to do it. And I can definitely say, you know, with the word that you put the word in your message. And so that's a great way to do it. That's really a great way to do it. You can never go wrong with asking Him first how He wants it done. Because first He's going to tell